everyone. Welcome back. We're checking in with Nobu on his juice feast. I think we're at around day 78, if my math is correct. And how you feeling, Nobu?
Good, good. My joints are much better. That could be a group of factors, the weather, um, busting off rust, but physically feeling good, robust, cardiovascularly, strength wise, everything's on like the up and up most for now.
How's the volume been? Have you kind of adjusted the amount of juice that you're consuming on a daily basis? Have you changed the fruits and inputs at all?
Yeah, now with it being actually here in the East Coast, it's hit the 80s and 90s a few times in the past 2 weeks. There's been days where instead of using jalapeno and ginger, very warming, herbs, where I've been using mint instead to now double down that cooling effect.
Hmm.
But I think I talked about this before in one of the earlier check-ins. Juicing is difficult during the winter months because you're already in a colder state, and now we're adding something that's even more cooling. Because again, like just like the reason why people oftentimes have to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom too, as well, is because your body has to spend energy keeping that waste, whether it be solid matter or liquid, inside your body at a certain temperature. Otherwise, infections can happen.
Mm.
So, just even though I'm consuming a large volume of fluids, it's very cooling on the body. It takes a lot more load to process and detoxification, time. So the heat element can be a little janky. So with this warm weather, it's been a huge relief, and it makes it a lot more desirable to drink juice too. So to go directly to your answer, then, I've been doing between like a gallon, 2 gallons. It depends on the day. If I'm biking 20 miles, I'm probably doing 2 gallons now. Increased expenditure.
Yeah. Are you using like salts or anything as far as trying to retain more of the hydration? What are your thoughts on adding those elements in there?
Celtic sea salt and creatine and glycerol, for retaining intramuscular water. Not really for the sake of hydration, more for just having more of a pump and increased bodybuilding stuff.
Interesting. And as we kind of discussed before started recording here, you've maybe fallen off the wagon a couple times throughout the process. Maybe give the audience some light on what that experience has been like as far as uh, going into maybe some solid food, uh, I guess extraneous uh, impulses.
The the contrast the contrast I feel is where the real teaching is found at a deeper level. Because as I say before, I've done multiple ones before where I'm absolutely strict. And I had a very clear intention in mind with those, which was to like clean out my insides. And I've achieved that state before, and I've been there, but now doing it like for an undefined period of time and not with a so defined goal in mind is a lot different, because now it becomes more about a sustainability practice and a very long mountain, and getting to learn how to navigate the best I can, versus this like someone who's stage 4 anything needs to just buckle down and commit, or someone who is, in a relationship with someone. There is certain levels of commitment and adherence to the contract that is expected, and for good reasons, right? But it's nice with this experience thus far to go back and forth between solid food and liquids, because the contrast is so much more palpable. Like, I do find that when I am filled with solid food, like I'm heavier, I feel heavier, I feel more grounded in my body at times. But then it's like this almost like weird contrast of where I feel as if I'm also not as skilled, um spiritually or metaphysically or psychically, but I feel more cohesive and more resonant with my fellow human beings. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think maybe we talked about this as far as like vegetables being like growing in the ground, and then also like eating meat as being more of that like 3D, like kind of rooting you into the experience of this plane. And I would imagine you with your shamanic abilities to kind of go between the different dimensions, that a juice feast would enable you to kind of stay at those higher vibrational levels, like we talked about the biophotons and just the amount of light energy that you're able to consume by just drinking concentrated biophoton fruit juice and things like that. And so yeah, I think it makes sense that as you eat more solid foods, it's kind of like more like the standard diet of most of the people kind of walking around, at least in the U.S., eating more like solid foods on a day to day basis and kind of living more in that root chakra. So I could definitely see that um, being a maybe like kind of like that bonding experience, like we were talking about before, like with the corporate setting too, of like you're drinking and you're going out to dinner with the coworkers, and if you all share that same meal together and break bread, so to speak, and you're all indulging in the same types of foods, then you kind of feel a more common bond. So I could see that being an effect, and then most people are not juice feasting, juice fasting. So I can't really relate to what it would be like to vibrate on that frequency.
Yeah. No, spot on. Yeah. And then that goes into the deeper layer of just the ritual of food in general. Because again, as we discussed before, you are what you eat. So it just as people have their attachments and predilections towards what music they listen to. I mean, I've met people before who were so vehemently and anally fixated upon their sports team, their music. If you didn't support the same polarity, then you were, you know, out of their life. And the same thing holds true for people with food. Like there's people who, won't. Oh, I could never date a vegan or vice versa. It, but it's all choice.
Hmm. Have you noticed that in your shamanic practices with the extended juice feast and just going further along, having that be your main source of calories and energy? Are you getting to like new levels as far as like with maybe with your art or with your ability to kind of go between the different dimensions and healing modalities?
100%. This is why, again, like I come back to some of these modalities, whether it be this turpentine combo, not because they're fun, not because they're pleasant, not because it's what I would want to be doing. Quite frankly, I'd rather be a Twitch streamer if anything, but not a shaman. But uh, it's what I need to do to be the best I can be at what I do, is
Mm,
to constantly give myself that, again, pranic biophoton rich nutrition so I can reach new levels. But yeah, 100%. Um, in fact, I would attribute a lot of my, you know, again, for those who don't know, like I've only been practicing shamanism now for, we could say 3 years in a very rough sense of the word. And probably only like, a year of consciously realizing like what I was doing as shamanism and being recognized by others as such. And juicing is a very fast way of going up the scales of consciousness because it fundamentally also attacks some of the fundamental things that someone must self-realize and awaken to awaken, like denying the different sins like gluttony. So when you deny yourself food and incapacity, or water, that already is going against the very most primal things ingrained in us. So
mm,
people aren't going to be able to conquer their lust if they can't even conquer their desire for food, right? And then that goes to other things, like then from stomach to ego and self-worth, and like you get a lot more done in the world if you don't want to take credit for what you're getting done. um so it goes on and on, but yeah, it's an experience and it's worth it. And just like the mustache, it comes with the job.
okay, can you explain that? The mustache?
The mustache, the
Yeah.
mustache, and the body hair. People probably can't see my my body hair that well, but I stopped shaving my body and my face, well, my mustache at least, when I committed myself to shamanism. And the reason is why as follows. Uh, Hair is an extension of the nervous system. So just as a tree has its roots, and off those roots, there's tiny little tendrils, then there's the mycelium network, as above, so below. Nature's just a reflection of us and vice versa. Our hairs on our bodies act as, further antennas and receivers for tons of data, some of which science recognizes to be true, like, air currents and electrical charges and barometric pressure, and some that they're not even aware of yet. So, and then movies like the Avatar, like, sink into this a lot with the emphasis on their long hair as well. But my mustache, since I don't grow hair on my skull fully anymore, due to cortisol and stress in the military, uh, I grew out my mustache as a way of also honoring the El Gato de Negro, the black cat, my primary totem, the jaguar, because whiskers are very feline. So
Mhm.
and then also it's a way of really concentrating that energy. Like where I have the most hair on my body is right on my lip. So as far as like, if all of the, square footage of my body, the most hair is here. So the most electrical data for me to collect is also going to be right there, right under my nose.
Yeah. Yeah, so it makes it easily perceptible, any changes in the
Mm-hmm.
energetics around you. Okay, that's
Uh-huh.
cool. And then yeah, you're kind of mentioning. I just wanted to touch back on it too, like that mind over matter concept. Like you're saying, the um, almost proving to yourself that you can forego food, you can forego, your lustful desires, and that's like a way up the ladder of kind of the spiritual and self evolution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, new levels, new devils. If you can't go to the next level until you beat the previous devil. It's just, again, it's if you think of life as a game or a simulation, that checks out perfectly. You're not gonna. Yeah, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. You really are a Twitch streamer, but for the game of life, taking down bosses on a different dimension. So awesome. Anything else you want to update the audience on this check in?
Progress over perfection every time.
Amen. Thank you again, Nobu, and good luck moving forward. Check in with you again soon. Thanks
Thanks,
everyone
brother.
for listening.